Hello, this is Brian Tiemann. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the December 2017 tech session, which was on Itslearning and the overview page. So to get started, before we do get started, just remember this is a recorded webinar, so you can certainly pause this as we go through things or rewind it or fast forward. That's the cool thing about watching a recorded video. Even though it's not live and you can't ask questions, which is a bummer, you can, rewind it, speed it up, or pause it. So that's pretty great. All right, so to get started, you want to go to swsd.itslearning.com right here. And when you visit this web page, you'll come to the login screen. Make sure it says Southwestern. And you want to log in with your first name _ last name and your normal school password. So this is just like your computer first started up in the morning. And then you want to click sign in. Now, when you first log into Itslearning, you're on your home page, which is sort of the collection of everything that's happening in all the various courses and groups and things that you're involved with inside of Itslearning. So everyone's homepage looks a little different. I have a lot of stuff on mine because I'm involved in a lot of courses. Yours might not have near as much stuff on your homepage, and that's okay. Then across the top, this big black bar is your Itslearning, your main navigation. So obviously if you jump to, say, the calendar, that's going to take you to the Itslearning calendar. And you do have a calendar for each course that you're enrolled in. And you can turn these various calendars on and off to see what, like if you want to just focus on one particular course. And you also have a personal calendar. So if you or students wanted to add things like, bring in a can for the Feed a Friend drive or something, you could add little personal events to this calendar, along with all the assignment events that get added by the course. The groups section is if you wanted to make a group, say for an intramural or student council or something like that. The big thing with a group is it's basically a course without a grade book. The library is where you can find and share resources. So you certainly don't have to do everything on your own. You can go in and find resources that others have made and shared. And then obviously things that you've made you can share to the library as well. They have a nice little tutorial here if you want to learn about the library, or I'm sure I'll have a tech session on that here in the spring. Like I mentioned at the beginning, the focus of today's session is to understand the course overview page. So whenever we click on a course, and it doesn't matter which course, it always ends up dropping you off at this overview page. So because that's the first thing the kids see when they go to work on your course, we want to make sure that we have, good stuff on here, that we understand where all these components of this overview page come from, and how we can adjust and edit and assign them. That way, when kids log into our course, they can quickly find out what they have to do, and they can get started right away and not have any questions about what they're supposed to be doing. The course that we're going to be working on is called Itslearning Tutorials. And you might be thinking, well, I don't have that course. So we're going to take a minute here. I'm just going to show you how to enroll in courses and how to navigate between them. So when I click the courses menu, any courses that you're involved with are going to be listed here, and you can jump around, from course to course. This is just a short list of all the various courses that you have. This list normally gets updated by last updated, but you could also do it by the last course you visited or by alphabetical order. So you have different ways of displaying these courses. And then if you still don't see Itslearning Tutorials here, you want to go down to all courses, and that will take you to all of the courses that you are a member of. And if you still don't have Itslearning Tutorials here, you want to go up here to the top, find more courses, and you can actually self-enroll yourself in courses that we've shared with our site course catalog. So you want to pick, these are all the Southwestern courses. These would be global ones, so maybe a teacher in Texas has shared something. you could find it here. But we'll go into our site course catalog. These are all our Southwestern courses, and then find the Itslearning tutorials. And then once you've done that, if you're a participant in the course, it will tell you that you're already enrolled. If not, there'll be an add button here or an enroll, and you can click that, and then that will put you into that course. Right. Then I can just click on course menu again. It should be there, and you can just use this process to jump around between your different courses that you have. All right, so pretty easy. So that's how the course menu works. So at this point, everybody should have the Itslearning tutorials course. And as I mentioned, the purpose of today is to talk about this overview page, this important page that everybody gets dropped into when you are accessing a course. So we want this to be very efficient, and we want to teach you what these elements of the course page overview page are and how to adjust and add to them. So the four main elements, you have your plans section right here at the top. And then if you scroll down in that same column, we have bulletins. And then over here on this column, we have tasks. And this one looks a little different based on your role. So if you're a teacher, it's going to show you follow-up tasks. These are students that have done things in your course since the last time you had accessed it. These are things that you want to check and follow up with. But if you're a student, it will just show you tasks, and it will show you things that have been assigned to you, and then things that have already been completed. And then you can actually click a little X next to the task, and you can move them over into hidden. And you'll probably see a section there that says hidden. And those are ones that you kind of put to sleep. You say, I don't want to work on these right now, and work on them later. That's what that's for. And then finally, on that column, we have events, and that's linked to the calendar. So we can add different events here, reminders. So for example, we had the middle school professional learning workshops, feed a friend, you know, our elementary ones are coming up next Tuesday, so we can put a reminder on there. So these are just calendar events, things, deadlines, events they need to be aware of. So there are your four main sections. So let's jump into each section in a little more detail and show you where the information comes from and how you can add to it. So for the first section, the plans, this is basically your lesson plan. So on our plans, this would be basically your lesson plan. So many teachers will put their LEQ and their agenda of what they're planning to cover that day on a whiteboard or chalkboard, so that when the kids walk into the room, they know exactly you know, what the plan is for that day. This is the same thing. And the plan is linked to your planner. So the way that you get something on your plans page is you actually go into your lesson plans. So I'm going to click on my course menu here, the plans tab. And on the plans page, you have various units. So I'm going to hide my lesson plans. So here's my Itslearning workflow unit. And then I have my plans all collapsed underneath here. And then there's my lesson plans. I can hide them. And then here's my Nearpod unit and the lesson plans that are under that, and my Itslearning resources unit, and so on. So you can create many units, and you can put plans inside of each unit. So this is the current unit that we're working on, and we have 6 plans. And the plan that we currently have posted on the overview page, the current plan that we have active, is this overview page options. And if you notice that the title here in this first column matches the title of the lesson plan here. And then, you know, same way, we go across, The date means that for this date range, this plan is going to appear on the overview page on these days. So if I log in after the new year on January 4th, this lesson plan is not going to appear on the overview page any longer because it'll be outside the date range. That's pretty easy. You can click on these and you can change it. So if you don't get it finished before the new year and you wanted to extend it out, you can certainly do that and just make that adjustment right on the fly like that. One other thing is once this date range ends, so let's say on January 5th in this case, this plan will no longer be available on the overview page, and it will be hidden in this plans page or this plans section of your course. So the kids will have no idea that that lesson plan exists. If you want students to be able to go back and refer to plans that you've already covered, then a good practice, like we've done down here, is to just not add a date to that plan. So all of these lesson plans here, you should be able to see these in your Itslearning tutorials course. If you open up the Nearpod unit, you should see these lessons because we don't have a date attached. So what this does is it doesn't put it on the overview page because there's no date, but it at least makes it visible so that students could go back and maybe access missing work, or if they wanted to review things that you covered, or if they wanted to preview upcoming units, that sort of thing. If you don't want them to see units that you have coming in the future, you could always set the date range, obviously, to be something in the future. So if I make this plan, for example, start on January 2nd, then it won't be visible until January 2nd. So nobody would see that plan at that point until that date. So there's a lot of power there. But again, I think best practice in my mind, I don't mind kids accessing the curriculum and being able to see, the work that we've done and what's coming up. So I would probably just assign a date when I want it to be on the overview page, but then when I'm done, I would just click on here and clear it. And then that way it's still accessible to the kids, but it would be removed from the overview page. All right, so moving on here, you have the LEQ, the facilitator notes, the standards and learning objectives, the assessment prompts. Now you'll notice that maybe some of these columns, like the facilitator notes on your screen, may be missing from this lesson plan. And that's because you can create things as a teacher that you can see, but you can hide from the students. And you do that on your plans menu by just going up to the functions and then your plan settings. And here's where you can go in and you can rename, if you want the fields in your planner to have different titles. And then here's where you can decide what students are going to be able to see and not see. So facilitator notes, teachers in the course can see it. I could allow everyone to see it, or I could hide it and not let anyone see it. So you have some options there with your planner as far as what people can see and not see. And then standards, objectives, assessment prompts. Now over here, your resources and activities, these are all the actual links to things that you're going to have kids do or view, or links they're going to follow. You can create these in whatever order you want, and then if you decide that you want to change the order of something, you just drag these up and down. So you can reorder them however you think would be appropriate. We like to call this little gray button here the snowman button, because it's 3 balls stacked on top of each other there, so it's kind of like a snowman. You just use that snowman to drag it up and down. Now all of these things here, the order determines the order when you click the overview page that those assignments are presented. So here's my lesson plan for the day, and I click show more, and then as I scroll down, there's that list of all the various activities that I want the students to work on as part of that lesson plan. And the order that these things are presented, if you go back to your plans, is based on this order right here. It's in your activities and resources column. All right, so that's the plan part of the overview page. It's tied very closely to that plans part of your course. So now we're going to move down and talk about the bulletins. So bulletins are just really quick ways to share information or to draw their kids' attention to something. So you could use this something really simply like good morning, and you could add the bulletin. Or maybe you want to share a resource that you have in your course. So maybe there's a rubric or a user guide. And maybe the kids aren't really, following the directions, or they're not referring back to their rubric as they work on their project. So you could just put a quick bulletin in there. You could click on resource. It will bring up your course resources, and you can choose the resource that you want to share with them. Click add. And then that's just a quick way of pushing that resource out to them to make sure that it's kind of front and center and a nice little reminder. This resource is still part of your resources for your course. It's still there. And if it's associated with any lesson plans, like over here, it would still be tied into those lesson plans. So it doesn't really affect anything. It's just sort of another way of maybe resharing it so that it's front and center. You can also add images. So like for my good morning, if I wanted to put an image of a sun or something like that, or a cup of coffee, I could do something like that. You have a couple other options when you go to post a resource, and that option menu is right here. If you click that, you can disable comments. You'll notice if you scroll down that you can have a little back and forth comment. Whenever you post a resource, somebody could give you some feedback. If you don't really want the kids doing that, you would just disable the comments. And then you can also schedule a resource or a bulletin. So if you wanted this to go out, say on a Friday, you could schedule that ahead of time. All right, so that's the bulletin. Pretty quick and easy there with that one. We're going to move over to this side, and we're going to look at these events. Again, this is linked very closely to this calendar section of Itslearning here. And if I wanted to add something to my course calendar, what I would do is just click the Add Event button there, and then we can choose a date for our event. You can either manually type it in, or there's a nice little date picker there that you can choose. And you can decide if it's something that's going to repeat over and over or not. That'd be this box here. You can decide if set up. You can decide if maybe only a certain group is going to see that event, or if everybody in the course can. And then down here, this is your pretty standard Itslearning editing bar. So anytime that you can create content, you have all your standard, your bold, your italics. You can change the color of the text. You can add links, create tables, do emojis. Couple that we really like, you have the embed. So if you want to embed things from other websites, that's a great tool. And then these are great too. This is an audio or video feedback button. So if you wanted to give students specific feedback for the video, you can just click here, and it'll turn on your webcam, and then you can talk to the kids just like you were standing in front of them and talking. Or you can record a little audio message if you don't want your video being shown. And then it pops it right in here, and the kids see your face and hear your voice. So that's a cool feature. So we're just going to put a little message here on my course calendar. And now that's been posted. Coming up, I have a bunch of other stuff that's happening before that, so I don't see that event right here. But if I were to go to my course calendar, I would see that event coming up on the 24th. That's pretty easy. And then the last one is your follow-up tasks. So again, this is going to look a little different for you because you're in teacher mode and I'm in the I'm in the teacher view or the teacher role here, and your screen in this course is going to be on the student view. So yours is going to look a little different. What's nice as a teacher is I can see that people have completed these various tasks. Like I've had one student since the last time I've been in this course has posted something or completed this task. And you can click on it and you can find out exactly who those people are. So I can actually filter through, and I can either filter by groups if you have groups, or you can just see everybody that's enrolled in your course. And I can see who all has completed and who has yet to complete it. All right, so this follow-up tasks, in order to put something on here, there's no real obvious button. And what you have to do is go up here to this green add button. And these first two activities, a task or an assignment, are the two things that pop up in this task menu. Everything else just ends up getting dumped in your resources or in your plans. So these don't really create tasks. It's just these top two that do that. So the main difference between a task and an assignment is a task is not in your grade book. So if I wanted students to do something, but I'm not really worried about grading it, I'd want to use a task. But if I want to assign a grade and have it appear in the grade book, that's where you'd want an assignment. But otherwise, they're very, very similar. Another thing with tasks is early on, a task was originally designed to track things that happened offline, and an assignment tended to track things that were completed online. So that could be another way of thinking about it or realizing why they work a little bit different. But either one of these will pop up basically on the kids' task to-do list here. So to create a task, and just click that button and click add task, and then I can give it a name, and then I can give it a description. And again, this is that same powerful toolbar that has all those other options. I can record a video in here. I can put in directions, that sort of thing. You can come up with a deadline if you wanted to have a specific deadline. You can decide if it's homework. All that really does is just sort of label it as homework. It doesn't really do anything else. You can assign tasks to individual kids. So this is really great for differentiation. I could click on this and go through, and maybe I just want these 3 or 4 students to complete this task. So I could assign it to just them and click OK. And then I can also, I do this all the time, show more options. I could attach a link to a Google Doc or a sheet or a Google slide. I could upload a PDF file or something that is on my desktop. I can decide if it's mandatory. If I want to work ahead, I could set it as not active, and then I could later come in and make it active. And then this button's really big, allow participants to set completion. If I wanted students to be able to check this off on their own, I'd want to check this box here. And then as soon as students, followed these directions, they could check it off on their own. I don't have to check it off for them. If it was something that was really important, like maybe, practice your poetry slam on the stage, I may want to uncheck this. And then what that will do is I, as the teacher, will be the only one that can check that task off as completed. So when the student gets up on the stage to talk, I would, have to come in here and basically open up the task list and check it off as completed. So that's a little explanation there. You can add learning objectives to it if you wanted to tie it to a standard. And then you just click save, and that would generate the task. All right. So what we're going to do is we would like you to do these 3 tasks. We would like you to create a bulletin. We would like you to add an event, and we would like you to add a task for the kids to do. So we want you to focus on these 3 areas today. And what we're going to do in order for you to create that is you can't do it in this course because you're not a teacher of the course. So we're going to have to get you into another course that you can do that. And a great course to use is a sandbox course. So if you go up to your course menu and you already have a sandbox created, you can certainly use that. If you want to use a real course that has real students in it, you can certainly do that as well. I mean, that's ultimately the goal, is to really use this stuff with students. But if you're not using it with students right now and you're not actively a Itslearning user, then starting a sandbox is a great way to just practice these skills and practice posting things in a safe environment. And then once you feel comfortable, you'll dip your toes in with the real students in your class. So I'm not going to use my sandbox. I'm going to create a new one, because if you haven't made one yet, you wouldn't know how to do that. So we're going to show you that step. So under my courses, I'm going to go over here to plus, add course. This is how you create a new course. If at any time you see a screen pop up that says you don't have the rights to create a course, then you just have to email Karen Kuntz or Doug Greenholt, and they can adjust your account to make sure that you have the rights as a teacher to create a course. But I'm expecting that everybody has the right rights. So you can create a new course. You can call this your sandbox. You don't really need a code. Now, one thing that we like to do, if you do it this way, it'll just make a completely blank course. If you choose this based on an existing template, you'll get a link. And then we have a blank master template that we like folks to use. Here it is. And if you apply that blank master template, then what it's going to do to your sandbox course is it's basically going to set up your planner to use the terminology that we use at Southwest. So it's going to call things, the LEQ and the warm up, the LEQ and the assessment prompts and those things. It just gives the terminology that we use at Southwest. So that's a good one to apply. And then click Save. So now I have a new sandbox course, and it's going to kind of generate my course and dump me off there. So we're just going to walk through, again, posting bulletins, adding event, and adding a follow-up task. So the bulletin's real easy. Just going to type good morning, and it's kind of helping you, walk through this little tutorial here. You want to try, you're not going to have any course resources yet. Actually, there's some stuff that we dropped in as part of the blank master template if you just want to practice adding something, but you certainly don't have to. You can remove it if you want. You could add an image. It's going to pop up your computer, so you can find an image of something that you might want to add. If you don't have an image, that's not a big deal either. And then if you want to, disable comments just to practice, you can do that. Notice that's in effect. And then just click Add Bulletin. Okay. All right, so bulletins are pretty simple. Next one we'll talk about are events. So we'll click on this Add Event button. And again, just running through this. This is the second time we've done this, so a little review. Put in today's webinar. It's happening. Today's December 13th. So I'll just put that event in. Now it's posted. So events are pretty easy. And now the follow-up tasks is the last one I like to do, because that's, it's not hard by any means, but it's the least obvious of these 3 things. So if you remember from earlier, you just click that green add button. and it has to be one of these two things. And remember, the assignment appears in the grade book. The task does not. Tasks tend to originally come from offline types of things, and assignments are things that you would do online and be submitting, like uploading a file or something. So we're going to just pick a basic task, and we're going to say, there's a good idea there, explore the library of Itslearning, and then take a look around the library. And I'm going to go ahead and mark that as homework, and I'm going to say show more options, and I'm going to allow the students to check themselves off when they feel comfortable with the library. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now it dumps me off in my resources, but I can just click my overview page. And again, sometimes people freak out here because they don't see the task appear, but that's not a big deal, because as the teacher, it's not going to be there until kids start to work on it. That's sort of a pet peeve with Itslearning. It would be really great if Itslearning would still put the task there and just say 0 people have done it. But that's not how it works, unfortunately. You can go back into your resources and you can see the task there. So that lets you, remember that it was there. And if you click on the task, if you were to add participants to your course, you'd be able to see who all had done it. But until somebody actually logs in and does it, you're not going to see that task there as the teacher. All right, so I'm actually going to log out. Actually, I'll tell you how to put a kid in here. If you wanted to put a practice kid in just to test it out, what we can do is we can go down here and we can click add. And a good one that you can search for is called HS, and we have HS1, HS2, HS3. So I'm going to go ahead and add HS3 to my course, and I'm going to make sure that I have the student box checked because he's a sample student. And I'm going to click search, and there's my HS3, and I'm going to check him and say I want to add him as a student to my course, and now he's a participant. So what that does is if I want to log in as HS3, I can actually see what the students can see. Okay? All right, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go sign out. And I want to show you kind of like from your point of view, HS3, and then the password for the sample accounts. It's always HS12345 or MS for middle school 12345, or BA or WM or Park Hills PH 12345. And then the password is always capital M Mustang 1234. Capital M Mustang 1234. I click sign in. And now I am signed in as that sample Mustang. Okay, and I can go to my courses, and there's the Brian Sandbox. And now I can see that that task is assigned as active, explore the library, and I can see that post that I had shared. Notice that I can't comment because I had disabled comments. I see the webinar, so my event was in there, so that looks great. Now, the other thing that I could do is I could go up here to the Itslearning tutorials, because I added this person to the Itslearning tutorials, and now this page should look exactly the way your page looks when you go to courses Itslearning, because now I'm in as a student. I'm looking at it as the student view. So I can see my lesson plan here looks exactly the way your lesson plan should. And you have that start button. You might have clicked it earlier when you were, just curious. But if you click that, it starts what's called like the lesson plan view, where it walks you through each part of the lesson in each resource. So this is just a nice, step-by-step way of going through the lesson. And then when you click the X, it just dumps you back to the overview page. It's like the lesson viewer, I think they call it. Or you can just jump to a various part of the lesson if you want to do it that way. All right, so that looks good. So what we want to do over here is focus on these tasks. So now you're kind of going back to tasks as a student to see, the rest of the process of what it looks like for a student. So this active task, post a bulletin. Well, I know that you've done that in your sandbox course. So we're going to click on that task. And then at the top here, we are going to just check that that task is completed. And now we're good. That's all you have to do, is because I had set that to be something that students could check off. Now you'll notice that that task is gone and it's now in the completed menu because I have it done. Now your teacher could always go in and uncheck it and make it go back into the active column. But there's a quick way to have kids just kind of track what they've done. We know we've added an event at least once or twice, so we're going to click on that. And we have done that, yes. So check that one off. Go back to our overview page. Now that one's gone. This is all that happens when you check the homework box. It just kind of labels it as homework, but otherwise it's exactly like anything else. We have added tasks, so I'm going to click on that. We feel good about those, so we're going to check that off. We're going to go back to the overview page. And now we have to do the last thing, get you credit for doing this workshop today. So we have a sign-in sheet. So go ahead and check on the sign-in sheet and then complete the task and then just follow the link for your specific building. And it should be a Google form. And just go ahead and fill in your name, complete the form, give us some feedback, and click submit. And the principals have access to this Google Doc so they can kind of keep track of how the sessions are going and who's attending them and that sort of thing. And then when you go back to your overview page, you should have no active tasks, which means you're kind of done your work for the day. So you did really well. If you wanted to see what you accomplished, you can click completed. You can see that you have everything done. And if you wanted to pause one of these tasks, so for example, if I felt like I wasn't done this task, then what I could do is if I click this X and kind of pause it or hide it or put it to sleep, and now it's not on my active list, but then I can click on hidden and I can see, oh yeah, I still have to do that by Friday. So if you just kind of want to hide it, that's what you would do. Then you can unhide it. And you're ready to work on it. Click on it, check to get it done, and your to-do list should be empty. Task list is empty. Now, just to show you, if I wanted to reassign this as a teacher, if I log out as this sample student and I log back in as the teacher, I can see that someone has created these different activities here. So I could go in to post a bulletin, and I know who it was. I have a little sample student group that I'd set up here to make it quick to find them. So here's the sample learner I just logged in as that I had marked as completed. So if I want to say, well, you might have thought you completed it, but you really didn't, as a teacher, you can always override and then basically reassign it to the student. So now when I go back as the student account, it should, even though I checked that off, again, this is Mustang with a capital M, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when I go into my courses, even though I had checked everything off, it reassigned it So as a teacher, you can kind of force it back onto their to-do list if you feel like it's not done correctly. All right, so that's, hopefully you feel pretty good. I mean, that's it for today. You have your plans, your tasks, your events, and your bulletins. So this is really the most efficient way at this point to use Itslearning and to get kids up and running as quickly as possible. And you should realize where these 4 sections come from and how you can add and remove things from it. So hopefully you found this pretty helpful. And thanks a lot for watching. Feel free to contact myself, Eric Whitmer, or Michelle Krill at any time. We're happy to stop by and help in person, or send us an email with your questions, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks.